So recently, ITV News came to interview me, and it was predominantly about AI. Okay, but it had a bigger conversation. Now, I'm not sure when this is going to come out and how much they're going to edit me out. So I'm doing this literally the day after. Okay, we were talking about AI, how it impacts the fashion industry as me as a photographer, but also the plus size industry. Will it, because it's not seeming to represent them? And I think this conversation is bigger than that. So I want to try in this video, and I'll put this on my podcast to try and go beyond this, because I think it's a very important discussion. So if you're listening to this on my YouTube, hi. If you're watching this on my YouTube, even, hi. If you're listening to this on my podcast, hi, welcome to the Loud Lens. I'm Khandie. So I am a fashion person, photographer, right? I've literally come back from Estonia at Fashion Week, where I saw a great many people walking those catwalks, okay? I saw a great many people in the audience, all different styles, all different people. But what this whole conversation resulted in basically news crew coming to my studio is because in a recent copy of Vogue, they had an AI generated advert from Guess. Now, you might say, oh, Guess was just trying to get some clever marketing. But as we've seen, there's been a massive backlash against people who use AI. And they just said, oh, it was just for this, blah, blah, blah. But the problem is this opens up so many issues. Now, you can go on about how Guess have a certain aesthetic and it tends to be Eurocentric. And I'm going to say, yes, we're aware of this, okay? But we can also, in my opinion, litigation lawyers can't come running to me. What we have to say is that the fashion industry is completely twisted, in my opinion, to a certain ideal. Okay, it's Eurocentric, it's thin, able bodies. That's not to say every single fashion industry catwalk, every campaign is like that, but for the majority of it, you can see. Watch any catwalk, right? Look at New York, look at London, look at those catwalks. I'm not talking the off Broadway, not off Broadway, what you call it. I'm not calling the fringe side of it. I'm talking the main catwalks. What do they all look like? It's a certain ideal, and yet the global majority are left not on those catwalks, or at the very least they're tokenized, okay, or they're platformed in a way like, look at us, we're so diverse, we've got one, woo, okay. It's even down to the plus size bodies. The plus size bodies have to be palatable for these people. Palatable. They have to have smooth stomach. They can't have stretch marks. The cellulite has to be minimal. It's all of this. Now we've got the likes of Ashley Graham walking that catwalk looking amazing, but she's still tokenized, in my opinion. It's still an element there. And I don't see many plus size people of color walking down these catwalks. Okay, I had a look. You might see them in other campaigns, but for the majority of the mainstream, we're not seeing that. And yet, when we look at fashion models, and I'm not here to body shame them, but they are not the kind of person we see out and about regularly, are we? We don't often see this look. The problem is that when all these images are then taken, they're put in a pool, aren't they? They're put in a pool, and AI goes into that pool when someone puts a prompt in and pulls out what it thinks is the most popular. It pulls out based on the prompt that is put in. The problem is AI is apparently going to do away with people who are photographers, who are going to do away with creative directors, going to do away with set designers, stylists, all of this, because they're going to be able to put a few prompts in and get it out. Now, I could go on and on about how the fact that there's a copyright infringement, that it's scalping people's work. That's a debate that's been going on and been raging on and probably end up in the courts, if not already, about this, okay? But what I'm talking about is the result of AI when you remove the human element, okay? Because we know the fashion industry looks a certain way, particularly, okay? And AI, if we're going down this route, like they're saying, like AI is going to take over all these jobs, great, okay, but what does AI pull out? The same thing every time. Instead, instead of having a diverse, inclusive fashion industry, we're going backwards again. We're going back to people who look this skin color. We're going back to people who are incredibly thin and able-bodied. We're eradicating people from the fashion industry after we fought so hard to just try and get some in the door, because there's still a massive backlash against it. This is what I'm saying is the problem. We are at the risk of those people disappearing altogether. And you might think, Khandie, that's so alarmist, but I'm actually quite concerned, because I mean, even when you look at photographers now, okay, I look at people and I realize the privilege I have because I am white and I'm talking about this, but I look at photographers, and when their entire portfolio is predominantly the global minority, like white skinned, aesthetically, stereotypically, the fashion beauty. If you're listening to this on the podcast, you won't see me doing inverted commas, okay? But I am. They look at it, and they have very little diversity in their portfolio, and I find that mad. The world does not look like, and I'm not sure I'm the best person to say how I want to say this, but I hope you get the understanding what I'm trying to say. So if that is what's happening with photographers, AI is going to pull that information in and just replicate that. Okay. And what we're doing is running a risk of losing the diversity and inclusivity in this industry. And there are photographers going, oh, but I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to lose this. Yeah, because they won't need another photographer to shoot a basic white girl in a pretty dress because that's all you can do, right? I mean, we as photographers have an opportunity here to prove that AI can't replicate what we do. AI is pixels. It is not the human connection. We are asking an algorithm based on somebody who sits there, types it in, who has no idea about how a fabric moves, how a person is, how reflective a light is, or whatever, to create a prompt to go into a software to push out an image, and that's what they're using, that image. Okay. What you're asking garments that aren't worn by a human to be put on a human. What if that garment's jack shit, right? What if that garment doesn't fit? And somehow AI going, oh, I'll make it fit, I'll make it look beautiful. And then the person gets it and is like, oh, because it's on a fake body, the body that doesn't exist, a body that has been created to a beauty ideal that doesn't exist because it's based on an algorithm of what was popular or what was the most researched and what was the most shown image. Where we have a problem, it's going to become problematic. And I think anyone who is listening to this can start to see my point. I hope that it is a very problematic thing to start jumping into. People go on about how AI is going to take our jobs. I think it will take more than just our jobs. I think it will take what is beautiful about this society, and it will remove so much, and it won't be a fair representation of what this society is. I think it's also worth noting the amount of backlash against AI. When Guest did this, people were outraged. It got them some clever marketing. I still think it sits on the marketing. They were trying to be smart about it because they wanted some traction. But we've seen other brands who've used AI have been called out for it. People who post on social media, you see it all the time on Facebook, people post and they go, that's AI, that's rubbish. There is a negative feeling towards AI, but in a world where we're always trying to save money, people are leaning towards AI. I'm seeing AI headshots done. You do not look like your AI headshot, honey, at all. People meet you and they're like, Now I can't sit here and say I haven't used AI. I've literally got a filter on this video because the lighting in here is pants and this brightens it up, and you can see when I move it moves about a little bit. Okay. Oh, actually why is it actually fins here? There's no reason to fin me. I don't know. It's just randomly done. That's actually quite funny. Yeah, look, you can't see this on the podcast, but this filter I've done is made the chest of drawers behind me go all wavy, and there's no reason because my body's not near it, so it's not finning me out. So I don't understand. Anyway, we'll ignore that. But I use AI. I use AI on this image. This image of me with for Halloween, where I was the red angel. I AI'd the wings behind me. I thought that was a great idea. I liked it, but that doesn't make the whole image. That image, the whole thing was, it was for me to create a more of a storytelling element. But me, I didn't put into AI make me look like Angel Dev and it did this thing. I had to create that, and it pulled on various things. I gave it a reference image of some feather wings that I had from a party shop, and I said I want them more exuberant, more red tones and luscious, and was able to overlay them and use it. So I still provide it with a source image. The fact is that AI is pulling on source images that are the popular ones, and that is not necessarily what society looks like. And I think we have a problem now, especially when AI is so prevalent. Like I said, people using it for headshots, and you don't even look like your headshot, honey. Like, you don't look like this. Like, how is that imagine going into work and your boss goes, can you send a headshot, and you send the headshot through, and you look like something out of, I don't know, a Lara Croft movie, or not Lara Croft movie, Lara Croft game, not the old pixelated one with the pointy boobs, but the newer ones. Why are you looking like something out of that? Like, that doesn't look like you. Okay, you have to. We're taking the human element out of it, and then wondering why people aren't buying into it and why people don't want it. And brands are seeing a backlash against those that use excessive AI. I think what will happen is, if I'm being very truthful, and this is going to hurt a lot of you photographers or in the creative industry, if you are crap enough to only ever shoot a certain thing of the global minority, that the white pretty girl, the able body, you're going to lose your job, because you are producing what AI already can produce. AI is already pulling that out. Okay, but if you are doing something creative, if you're doing something with people of different diversities, if you're doing something a little bit more, I don't know, how do I say this, but more creative, less generic, you are going to have a career. I think you're going to be here, you're going to sustain yourself. But the fact is, AI is pillaging our work, and I'm sorry, we need to stand out more. I find it very uncomfortable when I looked at the Guess advert and all I saw was exactly what I expected from Guess. A very pretty white girl with bouffant hair posing. What more was I going to expect from Guess? It saved them money. But what does it cost them? And what does it say about how we sell? What does it say about the fashion industry? What does it say as us photographers? What does it say? Is the fashion industry losing its soul? Are we going to go down this route that now people are just going to send us a picture of their face and then we AI generate a whole portrait for them and then they don't at all relate to that image? Does it cheapen what we do? Remember, even if we work in portrait photography, we're saying, we're making memories, we're doing this for you. But if someone can create that pretty picture of them by CGI in their face, if you essentially onto somebody else's body, why would they come and have a photo shoot with us? And that's where I'm worried about where AI is going to go. We have a issue with AI. AI is taking our work and feeding itself with our work and pulling out stuff that is so expected based on this fashion industry, based on this world. What we're actually doing is eradicating so much diversity in so much of the client base. I don't know if I've said this correctly, but what I'm going to say is AI is based on pixels and unworldly ideals. It is not based on humans. It is not based on storytelling. It is not based on history. It is based on unrealistic ideals. I don't know how to say that. And it is going to erase part of the industry. And you might think I'm being alarmist about it, but it was a thing that got me thinking. I was up all night thinking about it. And you can hear from my throat that I've not had much sleep. What do you think? Maybe I'm being too weird about it. Maybe this story is better. Maybe there's somebody else who's saying this better, because I need to acknowledge that there's probably someone who's really discussing this. But yeah. Anyway, take care, and I'll see you all in the next episode, wherever you're listening. And I will try and figure out why this is wavy, because this side isn't, but the side that is. That's weird, right? That is not. It doesn't even change on my hand, so it's not like it's a thinning thing. Oh, does it change my hand? No, I don't know. It's not a thinning thing. I don't know what it's doing.